Oh my God. That game took a few years off my life. Uh, Michigan wins in Wrigley Field against the Northwestern Wildcats 24 to 22 on a last second field goal by Dominic Zavada. Oh, that game was a lot closer than it needed to be, I swear. You're not going to win many games where you turn the ball over 5 times and have 0 takeaways. That's just insane to me. Uh, I mean, props to Northwestern. They played a tough game. They made it difficult, but man, Michigan made a ton of mistakes. This game should have not been that close, and they just made a lot of mistakes, and they're lucky to come away with this win. It started, they marched down the field. They scored a touchdown on, they supposedly scored a touchdown on on a 13-yard run by Jordan Marshall, but then they get called back on a holding. So then they had to settle for a field goal, and this is all in the first quarter, and he pushes it wide right. And so 0 points. Northwestern's not really doing anything with the ball. From that standpoint, I kind of had a feeling what kind of game this was going to be. Like, we're dominating the game as far as like running and all the statistics as far as like yards per offense, but like just key turnovers. 5 turnovers. Michigan in this game had 5 turnovers, 2 missed field goals, a touchdown taken off the board, off by a penalty. To be fair, Northwestern had a touchdown taken off the board from a penalty, and these were legit penalties. I'm not complaining about the rest on that. I do have one complaint on one of the turnovers. Samaj Morgan, who I am not a fan of, but he fumbled on the kickoff, and he recovered, but for some reason they called it Northwestern ball. Never saw them recover. They just assumed they recovered it, and they reviewed it, and because they couldn't tell because it's a jam pile, they just gave it to Northwestern. So that made no sense to me. But first quarter, there was no score in the first quarter. Then they scored on a 1-yard touchdown run by Jordan Marshall. And then Northwestern kicks 2 field goals, and at the end of the half, it's 7-6. Like, it's just a sloppy game. Michigan tries a 60-yard field goal. I say they missed 2 field goals, but one was a 60-yard attempt. But on the other hand, it was long enough. It was just wide right. So, again, it was frustrating because I feel like Michigan should have been up by more than what they showed. But they kept giving Northwestern chance after chance after chance. Second half, you think they're starting to pull away. Bryce Underwood has a 9-yard touchdown run. And then there's another touchdown by Jordan Marshall where he jumps over the pile. They dodged a bullet in that one. That could have been a 6th turnover. Jordan Marshall, fumbles, but he already got in the end zone, so it was a touchdown. But Northwestern recovered, and they were going the other way for 100 yards, and they called it correctly. He crossed the goal line, but he just crossed it, by a yard. So it's 21-9 at that point in the third quarter. And all of a sudden, here comes Northwestern, and for some reason, our defensive backs don't know how to play the ball because Northwestern, all of a sudden, who couldn't, throw the ball all game, was starting to hit the ball deep. And the defenders are there. They're just, the ball's just going through their hands. They're not playing the ball right. And, they score on a 1-yard touchdown run. And then, okay, so it's 21-16 at that point. I think, yeah. Well, I think they went for 2 but failed. So it made it 21-16. And then, so Michigan just has to do something with the ball. And Bryce Underwood, who had a good game up until this point, throws an interception. And it gets returned to the 6. Northwestern gets it first and goal. They punch it in from there from 6 yards out. They go for two again, but fail. And it's 22-21 at that point. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? But there's still a ton of time left. There's like 11 minutes. Michigan's driving down the ball down the field once again. And Bryson Underwood throws another interception once they get inside the Northwestern 30 or something. But the defense holds. Michigan gets the ball again. And then this time, Jordan Marshall gets injured. So now we're down our top two running backs. They bring in Kuzdal, who's looking pretty good. And then they go for it on 4th and 1, but they fumble the handoff, and Northwestern recovers. So the defense have to hold again. And they do. And finally, Michigan gets the ball back. They drive down the field just enough to... Here's my cat. She's kind of causing trouble. Hello. Hey, we beat the Wildcats today. What do you think about that, huh? No. So they get the ball and they finally, get it in field goal range. They wind the clock down to 2 seconds and they kick the game-winning field goal. Michigan wins 24-22. They did that again. I think I lost a few years of my life just watching this game. It should not have been that close, and I don't know what we're going to do once we play Ohio State, because if we're struggling against these teams, I don't know what Ohio State's going to do. But let's cross that bridge to when we get there. That's a couple weeks away. Michigan moves to 8-2. They matched last year's win total. They were 8-5 last year, if you include the bowl game. The bowl win over Alabama. So that's something. Again, this is a young team too. That's the thing I have to remember, that this is one of the youngest teams in the Big Ten. So they're going to grow. The cool thing about this game was it was played at Wrigley Field, where the home of the Chicago Cubs, and it was just it felt like an old school football game, like something you would see from the 1960s or something. It was just kind of a neat experience, and you don't see many games played in a baseball stadium these days. They used to play them all the time back in the day. Like I remember, like in the 90s. You would see certain games where there was still sand on the field from the baseball games, like at the start of the season. But yeah, this was a pretty cool. It was a cool experience as far as like seeing it on TV, the stadium experience. It was mostly Michigan fans there. The game was played in Chicago. Michigan fans always traveled to Northwestern in packs, so you wouldn't even know if it was a Northwestern home game or not. They're playing Northwestern. They're playing at this temporary stadium. I wish they played there. They had this temporary stadium on the shore of Lake Michigan, and that would have been so cool. But I'll take Wrigley Field. That's pretty cool too. But they're playing in these temporary stadiums till they'll get their new stadium built. So that's their deal. But Michigan wins 24-22. Like I said, they moved to 8-2 next week. They're on the road again at Maryland, which could be a trap game because they're playing Ohio State after that. So they can't settle for anything. I'm worried about the Jordan Marshall injury because now we're down to our third string running back. And the team just has to play better. I will say this: the offensive line played better at the end of the game, but I swear at the start. Oh, I forgot the other turnover. It was 2nd and 1 or 2nd and short, and they do this double reverse, and I thought it was a nice play. I mean, nice play call, but it got blown up by the defense because the offensive line is not blocking, and the guy, like the defender, nearly took the handoff before Marsh could even get a handle on it. And I'm reading online, and fans are blaming the coach for that. It's like, okay, I mean, they're saying, like, certain fans are saying, why are you doing a trick play on 2nd and short? And I'm like, if you can't do it on second and short, when do you run a trick play? Because second and short, that's the money down. If you get second and short, you can play any play on that play, because if it fails, okay, it's third and manageable. But you don't expect the offensive line to just completely miss a block and then cause the turnover. That was the issue. The execution by some of these players was the issue. Now, I'm not a big fan of Sharon Moore the last couple of weeks. I think his play calling was suspect. I didn't really have an issue with the play calling this week. I think the execution by the offensive line was bad. Bryce Underwood threw some bad plays. Like the execution on the players has to get better. You know, I mean, I can only blame coaching so much when, guys are fumbling handoffs and missing blocks and missing field goals. At some point, that's not coaching, that's the players. But don't get me wrong now, Sharon Moore, I have issues with him, but I don't think he was the issue in this game. I really don't. That's just my opinion. But, yeah, they win. And I'll take the win. At the end of the day, they're 8-2. They, like I said, they go on to play Maryland. My game ball, it was going to be split between Andrew Marsh and Bryce Underwood, but after him turning the ball over twice, basically three times because he fumbled the handoff, I can't really give him the game ball. But up until that point, he was playing a good game. He had over 200 yards passing. Okay, I'm going to have to give up 2 game balls, though. Not to Bryce Underwood, but my primary game ball goes to Andrew Marsh. A freshman wide receiver sets a freshman record at Michigan, 12 catches for over 180 yards. I mean, he's turned to the true number 1 receiver of this offense. And I think that's the one bright spot I can find from this game is they finally found 2 receivers that they can say that they're their number 1 and number 2 in Andrew Marsh and Donovan McCulley going forward. And especially with Marsh being a freshman and Underwood being a freshman, I think that helps the development going into next year. They got to get healthy at running back now. I'm worried about that Jordan Marshall injury. Cusdahl looked like he had some explosiveness. And the offensive line rebounded in the fourth quarter. So they helped push the defensive line and got some key, at least when it came to rush blocking. The pass blocking has to get better. I'll say that because Underwood was sacked like 3 or 4 times and before the second half, and he didn't make many good decisions. But I guess that's all. So my next video will be tomorrow night. The Lions are at Philadelphia on Sunday Night Football to take on the Eagles. That's a huge matchup for the Lions. I think as far as the Lions go, they got 3 big games left on the schedule. I mean, every game's a big game, but there's 3 key games, and Philadelphia is one of them. The other 2 is the Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving, and then they got a game in L.A. against the Rams, who's also a tough NFC opponent. But I'll save that for the next video. But until then, go Blue, go Lions, go Pistons. Pistons, the number 1 team in the league. I think they're in first place in the East or first place in the league. They are on a 9-game winning streak. So look out. Red Wings are playing okay. And also Michigan basketball is tipping off, and they won a couple games. They won against TCU. That was a tough fight. Man, Michigan had tough games, close games against a team that wear purple. Interesting. Anyways, and go Tigers. Oh, congratulations on Tariq Skubal winning the Cy Young 2 years in a row. Please pay him. He deserves every cent he earns, but I don't know if Chris Ilitch is going to do it. We'll see. But I guess until then, I'll talk to you later and stay safe out there.